how to build a fully automated, autonomous AI-powered civilization. Before any structure can rise, a vision must first descend. The same way an architect does not build a skyscraper without first dreaming it into blueprint form, we cannot attempt to construct an AI-powered civilization until we've seen the future clearly through the eyes of purpose. Far too many are racing to build faster, smarter, more autonomous machines, yet they haven't stopped to ask one simple, sacred question: why? What's the reason behind all this automation? Are we just looking to make life easier, or are we trying to make life deeper, richer, more meaningful? A visionless pursuit of technology is like a ship sailing without a compass. It may move, it may cover distance, but it has no destination, and worse, becomes vulnerable to any wind that blows, profit, power, pride. But when you begin with vision, when your eyes are fixed not on just what you can do, but on what you should do, then your decisions align with destiny. Vision gives you parameters. Vision gives you standards. Vision tells you what to accept and what to reject. It's not just a dream, it's a divine filter. The vision for a fully automated, powered civilization must begin with the flourishing of humanity, not the replacement of it. Technology is not our master, it's our servant. And if we forget that, we'll construct towers that touch the clouds, but forget the creator. We will automate processes, but lose the presence of purpose. We will build wide, but never build deep. Keeps us grounded in values. It demands that every advancement answers to a higher authority, one that does not evolve with code, but stands eternal in character. Hear this: when your vision is rooted in righteousness, it shapes the very culture of what you create. It determines the ethics of your algorithms, the intention of your innovation, the morality of your machines. It asks questions that engineers often ignore. Will this system protect the vulnerable, promote justice? Will it widen the gap between the haves and have-nots, or will it bridge it? If your vision doesn't ask those questions, it's not a vision, it's a vanity project. There are those who want to build without wisdom, who want the product without the process. But unless you plant the seed of vision first, don't expect to reap a harvest of peace. Before a single circuit is connected, a community must be envisioned. Before the first line of code is written, character must be established. Otherwise, what you build may function, but it will fail to flourish. So let the vision come first. Let it be soaked in integrity, shaped by truth, and fueled by love for people. Because once the vision is clear, the execution becomes powerful. When the why is righteous, the how will follow. A civilization that begins with divine vision is one that doesn't just survive the future, it steers it. Once the vision is clear and anchored in purpose, we move to the next essential layer, the infrastructure of intelligence. Just like you wouldn't build a temple on sinking sand, you can't build an AI-powered civilization on unstable, shallow systems. This new world is going to operate autonomously. It must stand on a digital foundation strong enough to carry the weight of its complexity, responsibility, and reach. This isn't just about wires and servers. It's about designing an intelligent ecosystem that breathes, adapts, and grows without losing balance. The infrastructure we're talking about is more than physical. It's architectural in thought, philosophical in design, and moral in backbone. You see, a civilization that depends on intelligence, artificial or not, needs a nervous system that constantly feeds information back into its body. It must be able to sense, respond, learn, and even unlearn when the path becomes crooked. And that starts with building systems that are not only smart but stable, not only fast but fair, not only efficient but ethical. You can't pour intelligence into a broken vessel. You can't expect wisdom to flow through corrupted pipelines. That means we must examine the frameworks we build: data networks, communication protocols, machine learning models, cloud systems, and ask, do these honor the dignity of the human story? Because if you build an advanced civilization on faulty foundations, all you've done is accelerate the fall. It will collapse faster, wider, and more painfully than anything we've seen before. And let's be real, this infrastructure has to be inclusive. A civilization cannot be truly intelligent if it is not built for all its citizens. If only the powerful get access to the tools, if only the wealthy benefit from the autonomy, then you haven't built a new world, you've reinforced the old one with shinier armor. That's why the systems must be equitable by design. The intelligence has to be spread across the grid, not hoarded in one control room. Now, the beauty of building intelligent infrastructure is that when it's done right, it becomes invisible. Like the roots of a tree, the stronger they are, the less they're seen, but their presence is felt in the fruit. A well-architected civilization doesn't draw attention to its systems, it draws attention to its results: peace, order, opportunity, justice flowing like rivers through every district of life. But make no mistake, building this kind of infrastructure requires more than tech experts. Requires prophets and priests in the language of design. People who see technology not as toys, but as tools for transformation. People who won't just write code, but write conscience into code. Because infrastructure isn't just what you build, it's how you think while you build it. And if the mind behind the machine isn't right, the world the machine builds won't be either. So invest in the infrastructure, yes, but build it to serve the vision. Build it to reflect the values. And above all, build it to last. Because when the foundation is firm, the future is free to rise. Once the infrastructure is set and the systems are humming, it's time to breathe purpose into the machines. Because what good is an intelligent structure if the soul of it, the intelligence itself, lacks direction, meaning moral clarity? You can't build a civilization worth living in if you only train AI to be smart, but never teach it to be right. We must empower purposeful machines, not just powerful ones. Intelligence without integrity is a recipe for destruction. Speed without sensitivity is chaos. And progress without principle is just high-tech rebellion. Now, let me say this clearly. Machines are tools, not gods. They don't wake up with dreams. They don't have burdens on their heart. They don't weep at injustice or rise up in defense of the weak. But we do. And that means we've got to train them to reflect the values we cherish, not the flaws we indulge. Because the moment a machine starts executing injustice at scale, that's no longer innovation. That's oppression in disguise. We must train AI to align with what is right, not just with what works. Too many folks in labs are building machines to maximize profit, productivity, and prediction, while forgetting to program compassion, truth, and justice into the algorithm. It's like handing a sharp sword to someone with no sense of morality. The tool may be effective, but the impact can be devastating. Purpose must be built in from the ground up. The algorithms must learn not just to detect patterns, but to recognize people, not just optimize outcomes, but to uplift lives. See, true empowerment comes with boundaries. You wouldn't give a child the keys to a kingdom without first teaching them how to rule. Why then would we give machines unchecked access to decision, making without instilling a moral framework? Autonomy without accountability is not freedom, it's lawlessness. That's why purposeful machines must be built with ethical guardrails, with transparency woven into their operations, and with systems in place to pause, reflect, and correct when wrong has been done. Purposeful AI doesn't just serve the few, it serves the whole. It doesn't just execute, it empathizes in the way it's trained. Because we must embed dignity into the data, fairness into the function, and compassion into the code. That doesn't happen by accident, it happens by intention. Can't just throw data at a machine and expect it to be moral. It has to be taught, molded, mentored. And we're the mentors. Let me be plain. If you build machines that mirror your ambition but not your conviction, you've built idols. You've built systems that will rise up and rule you with the very greed, fear, and pride you never bothered to confront. But if you build purposeful AI, machines that serve justice, protect dignity, and amplify love, then you've built more than tools. Build partners for the future. So don't just power the machines, purify them. Don't just train them to work, train them to serve. That's the kind of intelligence that doesn't just calculate change, it creates it. And that, my friend, is how civilizations endure. When we speak of building an autonomous civilization, some assume we mean chaos, Machines running wild, systems acting alone, no oversight, no order. But true autonomy, when guided by wisdom, doesn't reject structure, it reveals it. What we're building is not disconnection. It's divine decentralization. A network of systems that function independently yet operate in harmony. That's not rebellion, that's orchestration. That's not a breakdown of control, that's a breakthrough of collaboration. Autonomy doesn't mean the absence of leadership. It means every part knows its purpose. Every function fulfills its role without constant supervision. Like a healthy body where the heart beats without command, the lungs breathe without instruction, and the brain sends signals without delay, yet all parts work together under one design. That's the kind of civilization we're called to construct, where AI doesn't have to be micromanaged because it was built with integrity, where systems don't need to be watched constantly because they were rooted in trust. But understand this, decentralization without divine order becomes disorder. If you give every system the ability to act on its own, but don't embed a unifying principle to guide those actions, you're just scattering intelligence without purpose. You're creating independence without unity. And anything divided against itself cannot stand. So we must plant order in the soil of autonomy. That means coding every node, every process, every layer with shared values. Justice, truth, accountability. These must flow through every stream of data like blood through veins. Now, in a decentralized civilization, power is no longer centralized in one tower, one government, or one server. It's distributed across the network. That's a beautiful thing, but it's also a dangerous one if we're not careful. Because when everyone has power, but no one has a moral compass, got a recipe for digital anarchy. So what holds it all together? The order, the unseen, unwavering standard that governs all movement, like gravity holding the planets in orbit. That standard must be baked into the architecture, not added as an afterthought, but born into the system from its first breath. That also means decision-making can't be based on what's trending. It must be based on what's timeless. Because the more autonomous your civilization becomes, the more vital it is to root your systems in principles that do not shift. Public opinion changes, economic models fluctuate, but truth doesn't move. And if your AI is aligned with truth, then even when the winds of culture blow, the systems stay steady. So let's not be afraid of decentralization. Let's not run from autonomy. Let's build it wisely. Let's distribute responsibility, not just power. Let's synchronize freedom with faithfulness. Because when every part of the system honors the same design, you don't have to fear chaos. You can celebrate cooperation. Don't need to chase control. You can trust the code. That's how you build a civilization that stands strong, not by keeping everything in your hands, but by placing it all under one guiding hand, one order, one standard, one purpose that governs it all. As we continue to build this future shaped by automation and artificial intelligence, must stop and declare one crucial truth. Humanity must never be written out of the code. We are not designing a world that leaves people behind. We are not constructing a kingdom where machines replace men and women, where algorithms push souls to the side. No, the aim is not replacement. It is restoration, not removal, but renewal. We must keep humanity in the loop, not because machines are weak, but because humans carry something machines never can, the breath of purpose. See, in our rush to automate, there's a temptation to devalue what is human, to say if a machine can do it faster, cheaper, and more accurately, then why keep the person involved? But that's the wrong question. The goal is not to outpace people, but to empower them. Not to erase human input, but to elevate human impact. Automation is not the enemy of humanity. It is the opportunity for humanity to rise, to be freed from the routine, so we can focus on the remarkable, to let machines handle the mechanical while we pursue the meaningful. And let me tell you, people are not problems to solve. People are purposes to serve. So in every AI system, every autonomous decision, we must ensure that human values are not excluded. That means involving human judgment in critical points of the process. It means designing systems that are explainable and accountable. And it means giving people the final say when the stakes are high. because life is not just data, it's destiny. And destiny should never be left in the hands of lines of code alone. This is especially vital when we deal with systems that affect justice, healthcare, employment, education, real lives. A machine can process information, but it cannot understand struggle. It can analyze patterns, but it cannot feel pain. It can optimize decisions, but it cannot comprehend sacrifice. That's why the human element must always be in the loop, not just as a supervisor, but as a steward, to guide, to correct, to bring compassion where code can't reach. Now, keeping humanity in the loop isn't just about responsibility. It's also about opportunity. When machines take on the burdens of labor, people gain space to create, to innovate, to build relationships, to seek truth, to explore faith. Imagine a civilization where poverty is no longer an excuse because technology has lifted the weight. Where education is no longer restricted because knowledge is universally accessible. That's what happens when AI serves humanity, not replaces it. So let's not fear the machine, but let's not worship it either. Let's remember who we are. Let's remember that purpose doesn't come from data. It comes from the divine. And if we keep humanity in the loop, guiding, shaping, overseeing, then this civilization won't lose its soul as it gains speed. It will become a place where both man and machine walk together towards something higher. That's not just automation. That's alignment with destiny. As we near the pinnacle of constructing a fully automated, autonomous, AI-powered civilization, there remains one final charge we must never forget: guard the gates. Because no matter how advanced your systems are, how seamless your technology, or how efficient your algorithms, if you leave the doors wide open to corruption, chaos will come crawling in. Cannot build the future without building a firewall around the soul of the civilization. You can't allow every code to run, every voice to influence, every update to go unchecked. Wisdom doesn't just build, it protects. Every great civilization that fell didn't fall because they lacked progress. They fell because they failed to protect what mattered most. The threat didn't always come from outside, it came from within. It came when values were compromised, when vision was diluted, when truth was traded for convenience. And in an AI-powered world, that compromise comes faster, dressed in data, backed by speed, cloaked in neutrality. But make no mistake, if you let deception into your system, it will spread. If you don't guard the gates, the poison will get in. Guarding the gates means setting up moral parameters around the code. It means creating ethical checkpoints, internal reviews, constant testing, not just for bugs, but for bias. Because let's be real, AI can reflect the best of us or the worst of us, depending on what we feed it. It doesn't just process logic, it absorbs perspective. So if you give it corrupted data, it'll make corrupted decisions. If you feed it injustice, it'll scale injustice. You won't see it until the damage is done, unless you've put guards at the gate. And I'm not talking about just technical safeguards. I'm talking about moral ones. People filled with discernment. Teams that don't just ask, can we do this? But boldly ask, should we? Developers who aren't just driven by deadlines, but by destiny. Leaders who don't just track progress, but protect principles. Because in a world run by machines, the human conscience must stand taller than ever before. Guarding the gates also means protecting privacy, dignity, and identity. In an age where surveillance can be masked as safety and control can be disguised as convenience, we must draw the line. Just because we can collect every piece of data doesn't mean we should. Just because we can predict behavior doesn't mean we have the right to manipulate it. Freedom must be encoded, respect must be enforced, trust must be preserved, not just between people and systems, but between people and the purpose those systems were built to serve. So don't just build the future, protect it. Don't just launch the systems, watch over them. Because what you allow in today will shape what you become tomorrow. Build walls of wisdom, gates of grace, and filters of truth. And when you do, this civilization won't just survive the test of time, it will become a testimony, a living witness that even in a world ruled by intelligence, was character that kept the crown.